Number 10 for me was Godzilla.
All right. Godzilla. We were really looking forward to that one. I think it paid off pretty well. I mean, a lot of people have pointed out the same criticisms about it over and over again. Godzilla's barely in it, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of that's valid, but you and I were pretty mutual on it. It was still a really fun film to watch. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. My number 10 was Walk Among the Tombstones. We also were pretty mutual on that one. I think I just loved it. I thought it was a great crime thriller. I thought Liam Neeson was great. I thought actually all the cast was really good. Even the kid was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really engaged in the mystery of who the killers were and how Neeson's character is going to find them. I liked Neeson's arc of how he's very broken down and he's filled with regret and grief. And it was unapologetically brutal, but it was done well. It wasn't brutal just for brutal's sake. And I really enjoyed that one. I thought it had a solid start, a thrilling middle, and a very good ending.
Yeah, that was a fun film.
So that's my number 10.
Speaking of Liam Neeson, he was in a lot of films this year.
He's a busy guy.
He
For
is.
a guy in his, I think he's in his 60s now.
Early 60s, I think.
Yeah, he's staying busy, and a lot of them are action related.
Mm-hmm.
What was your number 9?
My number 9 was Dead Snow 2.
Yes. We actually didn't do a review of Dead Snow 2, but
we should have.
That's on this list, so I'll bring that up more later. What are your thoughts on What do you want to share about Dead Snow 2?
It was so much fun. I mean, it's not an American film. It's Swedish, maybe?
I think Swedish.
Scandinavian, of some Scandinavian country, but I mean, I think, in my opinion, like, I enjoyed the first Dead Snow. I thought that was really fun too, but I think it took everything the first Dead Snow did right, made it better, and then everything the first Dead Snow did wrong, and then fixed it. So it's basically just a better film in every way.
Absolutely. There's only one thing I didn't really like about it, and I'll bring it up later, but besides that, I love the first Dead Snow. The first time I watched that was back in, I think, high school with some buddies. We rented it back when they were still Blockbuster, and we checked out. We were laughing. We were, ooh, that's brutal. You know, we had a great time with that. I love a great zombie comedy, something that's just brutal and bloody. It was a lot of fun. But you know, even the first one has some things I don't like about it. But this one, just like you said, it just did it so much better. Like it knew what worked and it knew what didn't work, and it fixed a lot of that. So I completely agree. My number 9 is Fury. This was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I was expecting it to be good. This is the same guy that made, you know, the same year Sabotage, which was...
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, he made those two. He
God.
released those two in the same year.
Well, it's a good thing he ended on a high note.
He did. Fury was the good one. And Fury was... There was just... What I really liked about it was just the tone, the feel. It was dark and it had depressing moments, as it should for a war film, but it just didn't feel like a misery to watch. I've really felt like I was following this main character as this main character kind of adapts to this dark, cold environment, and he can, you know, he learns to be serious when he needs to, but he can also learn to laugh when he can, even after they go through this brutal tank fight with another tank.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just done so well. And
yeah, that movie did such a good job of showing all the brutal sides of war and like making you feel like you're there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What was your number 8?
My number 8 was Sin City.
Sin City: A Dame to Kill For.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, gosh, this movie was supposed to be made a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I love Robert Rodriguez and I love Frank Miller, but they just kept pushing it back year after year. And I was, you know, Sin City back in high school was like my favorite film of all time, and I loved the comics. I was always reading them. So I was like, when are you going to make A Dame to Kill For? Like, and they finally did. And yeah, you know, I think the Dame to Kill For segment probably could not have been done any better. No. And Eva Green and Josh Brolin were, like, perfect for those
Even
two roles.
though I admittedly have never read the comics like you have,
Mm-hmm.
I can see how Eva Green was the perfect
Absolutely.
casting for her.
And I was kind of bummed out at first when Clive Owen wasn't reprising the character of Dwight, but Josh Brolin, just as always, he just brought it. He brought his game.
Yeah.
And he's just so good at that type of character. This character that you just look at him when he has that dark look and you just don't mess with that guy. Like, and his narrating was great too.
Unfortunately, now that it's been out a while, we can say that it didn't really do very good.
Oh, it bombed.
Yeah.
It tanked.
Which stinks because
You
I
know,
really enjoyed that film.
You know, it wasn't as good as the first one, and it had not all of the stories worked, as we pointed out in our review. The Jessica Alba stuff did not work very well, but it deserved better than that.
Yeah.
Like, it deserved.
It didn't even make like half its money back.
It was sad how much that movie tanked. Yeah, that's kind of a shame. My number 8 is the Lego Movie. That I loved this movie.
Oh man, that was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
wow.
such a fun movie. That's the best kids film I've seen in the theaters since Toy Story 3. And that's probably one of the best comedies I've seen in the theater in a long time. I was just having so much fun with it. It's a good kids film because it has the tone to be clean family fun, but at the same time, it's not condescending towards children.
And also, it
You
has
know,
all the appropriate jokes for the adults too.
Exactly, it does it well. There's doing
It
that,
does it where it keeps adults interested too, even.
but it's not like it doesn't throw you off.
no,
Because there's a lot of kids movies that try to throw in some adult humor, but it's either so blatant or it's so oddly in the background that it's like it takes you out of the movie. It's like, that's weird. But like, this movie did it right. The animation on the Legos was gorgeous.
It was.
And the humor was great. I actually really liked the message. I really loved how Will Ferrell's the villain. I really love how he develops. I actually thought that was really well done.
And I also, I know we've talked about this before, and I know, I kind of had the same reaction that you did when it first started, but the live action segment, when that first started, I was kind of like, where's this going? Where's this? But then I actually liked
it. Actually made the movie better.
It did.
I thought the moment they broke the fourth wall, I was like, oh no. But it actually made the film way better and way more relatable, and it got its message out better. And I know people like to joke about everything is awesome, but I actually really loved the soundtrack to this movie. I thought it was catchy and it was synth based. I loved it. So yeah, Lego Movie. I really loved that movie. So what's your number 7?
John Wick.
John Wick. We were so excited the first time we saw
a trailer for that. We were like,
it did
what?
not disappoint. I'm going to be talking about that quite a bit actually in this. There's not much to say.
I mean, if it's on your list, then we can talk more about it then. But I really enjoyed that.
So much fun. My number 7 is Selma. I just got done seeing this. I had a very brief review. I just didn't have much to say in the review because it's just, it's one of those things where you should just go see it yourself. Like, it's a really, really kind of near perfect, if not perfect, well, maybe not perfect, but near perfect adaptation of the Selma marches for the Civil Rights Movement. The casting was fantastic. The direction was good. It was beautifully shot. It has a lot of hard moments to sit through, but at the same time, it's necessary because, you need to know this happened. And as tragic as it is, and this movie's it does a good job, reminding us, that this happened and to not forget what people like Martin Luther King and all of us that believed in civil rights, what they had to do for that, to push that and to gain equal rights. And it ends on kind of a sad, but at the same time kind of uplifting note. And it was done so well. Definitely see
so. I mean, exactly what you expected.
It's what you should expect. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it's not, even though there's a lot of hard moments to sit through, it's not as depressing as 12 Years a Slave. Mm-hmm. Although 12 Years a Slave is a great film, I put that on my top 10 last year. But that is the most depressing film I've ever sat through, and rightfully so. It deserves to be that, considering its material, but still.
Yeah, of course.
So, what's your number 6?
The Equalizer.
The Equalizer, yes. That was a lot of fun. A
Oh yeah.
lot better than I thought it was gonna be.
I love him so much.
Denzel's so good, and
in
the villain.
In that film, he's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the villain was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was so intimidating. I liked the music choices, the direction. It was
the atmosphere.
It was unapologetically a hard R, and I like how in the climax it kind of turns into a slasher film for a little while. It's a little long. That's when I think of things I didn't like about the movie. The only big thing that comes to my head is it's a really long film. It was like over 2 hours.
That was kind of like how The Walk Among the Tombstones was for me. Like I really enjoyed that film, but there were some parts in that movie where I was kind of like, okay, come on, let's go.
For sure.
But
still,
very enjoyable film.
Absolutely. My number 6 is The Grand Budapest Hotel. This is, I think it's the first Wes Anderson film I've ever seen, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It was, oh man, I could talk about that in itself for like half an hour. The gorgeous that to me is an art film done right, because it's not condescending, and even though elements of it may be weird and complex, it's done in a clever way and not done in a, well, it's art, so just accept it kind of way, Like, it's still clever. It has smart dialogue. It has a lot of funny moments. It has a great cast. And the visuals are just gorgeous. And you could just, even if you couldn't, like, follow the movie, if you're just looking at the visuals while listening to music or something, like, you could just very
fantastic cinematography.
You could just look at that forever and just have so much fun with it. So yeah, great, awesome movie. Definitely check that out. Number 5?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah. That, I stand by it. I think that's probably my favorite Marvel film yet. That's just, it was such a great space adventure film.
I mean, if you haven't seen who hasn't seen Guardians yet? But if you haven't seen Guardians yet, I know you would probably be thinking, well, how could you do better than
the Avengers?
The Avengers, but I think this was better. Or I
enjoyed it more because the first time I saw the Avengers,
like the Avengers is an amazing movie.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
I came out really liking the Avengers. I saw it on my birthday, and I remember like that was so awesome. They actually made a really good Avengers movie. But I remember the first time I watched it. It took a while for it to get really good. The first time I watched it, because it's kind of slow in the middle. Not until the Battle of New York do things really start to pay off. So, but with Guardians, I was just having a blast from beginning to end. I was just
it is a very well-paced movie.
Exactly, and it's one of those movies where I was having so much fun that when I knew it was getting to the climax, I was like, oh, I'm having so much fun. Like,
like it's one of those movies that you don't want to.
Exactly, and when you have that feeling that you're kind of bummed out that it's almost over, that's the sign of a really good movie. So, yeah, nothing against the Avengers, of course, but yeah, I agree. I liked Guardians a little bit more. My number 5 is John Wick. I love this movie. What's your number 4?
Fury.
Fury. Okay. Anything else you want to say about Fury?
I mean, it was definitely my favorite war film of this year. I mean,
what other war film? Well, I guess The Imitation Game.
Well, that wasn't really a war film. Okay, well then
war-centered film, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean,
what other war films came out? I guess Unbroken, although we didn't see Unbroken.
No, didn't Monuments Men come out this year?
Ooh. It was either early this year or late last year. Although that did not get very good reviews.
I know, but yeah, anyways. Yeah.
I hear you, though. Yeah. Okay. My number 4 is Snowpiercer. For the longest time, that was my favorite film of the year. The next 3 films beat it out, though, by just a little bit. This movie was awesome. I love a clever, fun, post-apocalyptic action film. This was a great way to show me also that Chris Evans can really act in diverse roles. I've seen him do other things besides superhero movies. Street Kings is one off the top of my head, and he was good in that. And Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But this was just I thought he was great in this. It was so imaginative. Like, this movie had a great imagination. It had a great world to introduce you to, and for me, I just got sucked into it. I loved it.
And for me, it was just, I love. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it was just a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I mean, it's so hard to say specific things, but
I really like South Korean cinema because there's just, I feel like they just don't have any limits. Like American cinema sometimes is not so. A lot of times they're just so scared to like kind of push how far you can take something. And South Korean films, even though they can be grotesquely brutal at times, you know, they are, but I kind of respect that. I respect that they have the balls to do it. Like, and Snowpiercer is one of those films.
Like this film, you know, it's one of those things where, yes, this certain event and these things are happening, but there's kind of a greater message going on around. And, you know, I love the conversation between Chris Evans and the villain in the end, and, you know,
Ed Harris,
yeah, it's just...
It was cool seeing Ed Harris.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, Snowpiercer, awesome. What's your number 3?
Imitation Game.
Imitation Game. Yeah, we just did the review for that. Very emotional, very engaging.
Very well done.
Yeah,
very well done movie.
There's not much else to say about it. Yeah, it's good.
I mean, we just did a review.
Yeah, my number 3 is Whiplash. You didn't see this one, but you should. Oh my gosh, this movie was. This was also one of those movies that I was so into, and I was having so much fun with it that when it ended, when it cut to black and went to credits, I was like, oh, it's already over. Because like I was just so into it. I was like on the edge of my seat. Just there was so much of this film I can relate to, and so much of this film I find inspiring at the same time. And the acting was great. This movie is a great love letter to music and to art in general. It was beautifully shot. The music scenes were handled tremendously well. And yeah, definitely check this film out. If your theater may not have gotten it, it was kind of a more limited release film, but
there was a lot of films that we really liked this year that were like that.
Yeah, exactly. And Snowpiercer was one of them, I think.
But Imitation Game as well.
Yeah, but so yeah, definitely check out Whiplash when it comes out on video. I highly recommend that. What's your number 2?
Dawn of Planet of the Apes.
Dawn of Planet of the Apes. Yeah, that was pretty good. I liked it a lot more than the first one.
I mean,
you're the big Planet of the Apes guy.
For me, you know, I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan, so I was really I really liked the first one, and I was really looking forward to this, and I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, it was really good. I thought Caesar was really. I really liked how Caesar developed. I
loved the hand sign communication and stuff like that, and very beautifully shot.
The cinematography is great. I love the opening and closing shot of Caesar's face. I thought the action when they raid the city, that was a fantastically done action scene. And Gary Oldman, even though he's only in there for like 5 minutes, he was really good. Yeah, I remember the other human characters were kind of bland, and the actual storyline itself is very predictable because it's a story structure that we've seen before, but it was still done well because it's still the quality of it was really well done. So yeah, I really liked Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as well. My number 2 is Dead Snow 2. As a guy who loves The Evil Dead, who loves, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, who loves just a for bloody sake, comedic, darkly comedic, horror film. This was just a blast to sit through. And one of the things I didn't like about the first Dead Snow was its kind of throwaway ending. It just has kind of a throwaway ending. It's like that nothing really got solved. It just ended. And this actually picks up immediately where it ended and actually gives you a full resolution. The only thing there was one thing I didn't like about this movie that noticeably I didn't like about this movie. One character, Star Wars girl.
You really didn't like her, did you?
One of the things I didn't like about the first Dead Snow was that some of the characters I feel they were trying to make really funny and they just weren't funny. Like there was the chubby guy who was kind of like me. He was like the movie guy, and he was actually wearing a Dead Alive shirt in the movie actually, and he has sex with that girl in the stall, and then he gets like his brain ripped out.
Worst deaths.
Yeah, I feel like they were really pushing that guy to be the funny nerdy guy, and I just didn't care. And then there was like the skinnier guy who's one of the last people to die, who he was kind of like the smart aleck in the group, and it was whatever. This new movie, for the most part, had pretty funny characters and likable characters, but man, they were pushing Star Wars girl. They just kept, and there was no joke to her. The joke was she kept referencing Star Wars. The joke was she kept quoting Star Wars. She's like, oh, the Force is strong with this one. Like, who talks like that? And there was one scene when they're like spying on the zombie Nazis, and she pulls out the Hoth binoculars from Empire.
Oh, God.
Okay, when she pulled it out and just started like, I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. And then they ruined it because then they're like, what's that? It's like, oh, these are the binoculars that Luke Skywalker uses in Episode 5. I'm like, thank you for explaining the joke to me. You ruined the only funny thing you did. She didn't ruin the film, but honestly,
we all know that's not what we're there for. So.
To be honest, if she wasn't in that film or if she was done better, this movie might have had a better shot at being number one for me. But she just barely sank it down a bit.
She didn't bother me as much as it bothered him.
I hate that meta humor. But anyways, Dead Snow 2, still check it out. So, there are some movies that I didn't get to see this year that I really wanted to. I didn't get to see Birdman. I didn't get to see The Raid 2. There were some horror films that came out this year that got really good reviews. Unfortunately, I didn't get to check those out either. Were there any movies that you wanted to see this year that you didn't get to? Off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head.
Any honorable mentions?
Not really. Not if we're going to start talking about the worst films.
Okay. So some honorable mentions for me of movies. I really liked The Equalizer. I liked Godzilla. Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America 2, The Imitation Game, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Edge of Tomorrow I really, really enjoyed. The Purge Anarchy was a much better sequel. It was a much better film than the first Purge, and it was very much what I wanted the first Purge to be, so I really enjoyed that. And Joe, the Nicolas Cage film.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
So good. I was really looking forward to that, and I finally got to see it, and it was just great. And for people who keep bashing, I mean, I know I jokingly talk about how much I like Nicolas Cage, but that guy can do drama. And for the people that say, no, he can't, watch Joe. I mean it. Like, he brings out a great performance in that. So, those are some of my honorable mentions. And what is your number one favorite film of the year?
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer!
I love that film so much. I mean, that film is a film that kind of makes you think, but it doesn't make you think in a way that annoys you.
It's not condescending. It's not pretentious.
And I mean, good action, good cinematography, good story, amazing performance by Chris Evans, and I loved seeing him away from I love him as Captain America, I really do, but I loved seeing him in a gritty hard action role where he looks like Christian Bale.
He looked just like Christian Bale. It was insane. But no, I agree.
Well, the first time when we started watching it, we were watching it with Sebastian, and there's that scene where we first see him where they're all sitting down and he's still standing up, and Sebastian was like, "Is that Christian Bale?" Nope, that's Chris Evans.
Exactly. Yeah, Snowpiercer was awesome. My number one, Gone Girl. This movie kind
of... You really like that
This movie kind of traumatized me. That's how good it was. Like, in a good way, it was scary. Like, David Fincher has not lost his touch. He is still one of the best...
David Fincher?
I don't know if you've seen any of his movies. He did Fight Club and Seven. No, Zodiac. He did Zodiac.
Oh,
You've seen that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He did The Social Network, I think, as well. He is an example. You know, I've always said... Not always, but I've kind of felt as of recent times, it's not that movies are dying, it's not that the art of cinema.
Hollywood's dying.
It's Hollywood that's dying. But David Fincher is one of the few Hollywood guys that says, you know what? I'm not going to do what Hollywood says. I'm going to make my movie my way, and it's awesome. Like, this movie...
How does he get that past the...
Because they're... I think Fight Club had a lot of issues with the MPAA, because that's a very, very... A lot of people are still shocked that Fight Club got a wide release because of how weird and rebellious that film was when it first came out. Yeah, but it's just, it has a daring view on the mysteries of trust in a relationship, specifically marriage, and it kind of asks questions that a lot of people don't want to answer. They're kind of afraid to answer it. And Rosamund Pike deserves an Oscar for her performance. She was, oh my gosh, she was scary. And
that's the girl from...
She was in Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher, right?
Mm-hmm. Playing the exact opposite character. And Ben Affleck was really good. I never understood the Ben Affleck hate.
Daredevil.
That's not his fault.
People don't care.
Daredevil was not his fault.
So it's his fault.
Reindeer Games was not his fault. I'm not saying he's a perfect actor. That's not his fault.
You know what I'm saying.
He's been in some.
You know exactly what I'm saying.
He's been in bad movies, but who hasn't? Really? But anyways, Ben Affleck was great. Neil Patrick Harris was really good at playing a very creepy character, and David Fincher just knocked it out of the park. This is definitely my favorite film of the year. I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray pretty soon. I'm looking forward to watching it again. So I don't know if I didn't talk to you about making this, but I just want to point out a couple of things. My favorite shock moment of 2014 watching movies was from Gone Girl. I'm not going to say exactly what it was because it would be a big spoiler, but all I'm going to say is it involves a box cutter, and if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. And when that scene happened, I knew it was going to happen. I kind of had an idea of what's going to come, but when that scene happened, I was jaw dropped. And it was shot and edited in a very scary way, in a good way, really scary and bloody way. So that to me was my favorite shock moment of the year.
God, shock moment. Oh man.
Maybe Dead Snow 2?
Okay,
the
Dead
CPR
Snow
scene?
Yes,
the
yes.
The CPR scene.
When we were all sitting there watching that, and then when that thing happened, and we were all kind of like,
no!
What just happened?
Another example of something...
I mean, I'm sure people don't care if we spoil it, but basically...
It happens in the beginning,
yeah.
so that I'm okay spoil... Okay, this happens in the beginning of Dead Snow 2. The main character...
And just to show you how foreign films just love to get away with this kind of stuff.
This is something that would never get away in a Hollywood film. Never. The main character ends up getting the supernatural strength. And through certain circumstances, he ends up accidentally, slamming this little boy through a wall, and the kid falls out the building. And so he goes oh my gosh! So he runs outside and goes with the kid. The kid's passed out, and he places his hands over his chest and he's trying to do CPR. And the moment he presses down, his superhuman strength kills the kid. And so what you see is he's and you hear this, and blood just splatters onto his face.
And we were just what?
I was speechless. I was that did not just happen. He did not just kill that boy. Holy... And it was done for laughs.
It was.
It was done completely for dark laughs. Again, you would never see that in America. At least not in Hollywood. Maybe an independent film. Yeah, and my favorite action scene of the film... my favorite action scene of 2014... The nightclub shootout in John Wick.
That was fun.
That is the highlight of the movie. If you're gonna watch one scene in John Wick, watch that scene. It's building up. It's building up to John Wick going to this nightclub to catch the spoiled kid that screwed him over, and it begins with him, sneaking in there with a cameo by Kevin Nash as the bouncer. you know you're in good hands when it starts with Kevin Nash having a cameo, and then he goes in, and the moment he starts shooting people, it's like a good 5, maybe not quite 10 minutes, so this is good just 5 minutes of just non-stop headshots, chest shots, and you have this rave music in the background, and it's insane.
It is.
I loved that. I could watch that scene over and over again.
God, my favorite action would probably be the train car. Two forces against each other from Snowpiercer.
The hooded guys?
The hooded guys
Yeah.
scene from
That's
Snowpiercer.
really good, yeah.
When they're like open the doors and there's the hooded guys on this side and the one guy's on this side
Yeah.
and they just duke it out.
That was really
scene
good. That was
insane.
very intense.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know what? 2014 had a lot of crappy films and a lot of disappointing films, but, you know, there were a lot of good films. And the fact that we had
the
so many
greatest
honorable
villain
mentions.
of the year. Okay, the tornado from Into the Storm.
Absolutely. Absolutely terrifying. Actually, who was my favorite villain of the year?
Probably the guy from The Equalizer.
If he's close, I'm
Or
trying
Lee
to...
Pace from Guardians.
I liked Lee Pace. I liked the guy from Equalizer more. Because
Uh,
Lee Pace was really good playing that character, but the character himself I thought was kind of a generic bad guy trying to take over the galaxy. Mel, you know, even though the movie was disappointing, Mel Gibson was so good in Expendables 3.
What about Ava Green?
Eva Green, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, she
Oh
was
my
actually
gosh.
in 2 films this year as
Playing
the villain.
Playing the exact same character.
Playing the
300.
insane villain.
Both of which are based on Frank Miller graphic novels, yeah.
That's true, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Well, that's our favorite films of 2014. We'll have our most hated films of 2014 up soon. Thanks for watching.